G'day legends. So if you're a fashion brand and you're flying blind on SEO, not sure how you stack up against competitors or what you should even be targeting, this video will fix that. You'll walk away with a real gap analysis and list of content opportunities that you can actually action. We're covering 4 different things: benchmarking your site, finding your page or keyword gaps, clustering them into opportunities, and then building a 12-month strategy. We've done this for brands like Levi's, David Jones, Pace Athletic, and Sodi, just to name a few. Let's dive into it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to Google and search for long dresses as an example, because I want to grab a competitor that's relevant for you as a fashion brand. So what we're going to do, go to long dresses. We're going to go down to someone who's ranking kind of third, fourth, so mid-tier on the first page. What we're going to do from here is open up a software called Ahrefs. Essentially what Ahrefs is it's a SEO organic search software that shows you how you show up on Google, how you show up on AI, how you show up on lots of different search engines. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the domain into Ahrefs and see what it has to say. Now, what's really important to know about Ahrefs is it is a third-party tool. It doesn't actually have first-party data like Google Search Console or Google Analytics or your Shopify data. However, it's a good tool to use to see relative to others in the space how you're faring. So what you can see here is you've got what's estimated monthly organic search traffic coming to the site over time. So you can see here that Perfect Stranger had a fairly flat period, and then they've grown over time. They've had a bit of a spike in the back end of 2025, but then they've had some losses since. So what we want to start to do is not necessarily diagnose why that's happened, but more see, all right, relative to others in the space, is this good? Is this bad? And where are the areas that they can unlock for improvement? Namely, what that will be is, are they missing any pages for what people are searching for? Is there any unlockable opportunities? And then also, maybe they are ranking for a particular phrase, but where is there room to improve? This is what I call 3 feet from gold. Maybe they're ranking on the second page, maybe they're ranking on the third page of Google, but they're not quite where they want to be. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go down to what's called organic competitors. So if you go to organic competitors, this will show you who on Google has the most amount of overlap and is competing for the types of phrases that we want to be present for or want to have top positions for. So you can start to see here are some of the competing brands that have similar positions on Google. So what I'm going to do first and foremost, I'm going to filter it by common keywords. So I want to see who has the most amount of overlap. And now you can start to see who are some of the bigger competitors in the space. So we've got Just Jeans. Now this is a conglomeration of different brands that sits under this, and they are a little bit more of a generalist. So it makes sense that they're going to be at the top here. Meshki, Princess Polly, and a few others here. So you can see how much overlap they have in terms of keywords, how many keywords the other person or brand has as well. And again, to reiterate what a keyword is, essentially that's just when you search something in Google like black dresses or green dresses, each one of those represents what's called a keyword. And essentially the more keywords you have, the more coverage you have on the internet. It's kind of like themes of how people are searching. And then I'm going to start pasting in some of these competitors. So you can go here, competitor, paste them in. Competitor, paste them in. Cool. So we've got all of our competitors in here. And what's really cool about this is you can see, again, this is third-party data, so it's not telling you exactly the organic traffic that's coming through, but it's good to see relative how we're faring. So if we look here, we get around 50,000 organic inbound visitors to the site estimated each month. Whereas Billy J, Dish, Tiger Mist, Princess Polly, they're all getting at least 100, if not multiple hundreds of thousands of people to the site each month organically, which is pretty impressive. So how can we actually start to close that gap? We're only at 50. So this is what I will take you through today. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to start creating what's called a competitor analysis. So I'm going to go into Claude. I want to create, I'm not actually going to read that out to you, but it will make more sense as we go. So the other thing I'm going to say is I will, for the tables information. So what we're going to do from there is we're going to go back to our analysis and we're going to start with organic traffic. So really what I do from there is I come in and I just start screenshotting all of these metrics. So grab that, save to clipboard, and then put everything in. Next one is going to be domain rating. So essentially what domain rating is it's kind of like a score, that an arbitrary score that you get that ranks your or rates your authoritativeness. It's almost like a follow account on Instagram or TikTok, right? The higher your score, the more popular or authoritative your website is. So 100 would be a Facebook, a Google, Instagram themselves. They have huge, or like a Wikipedia. They're going to be right in the 90s or on the 100 mark. And then a brand new website's going to be a 0. So over time, we want to be building that score. And again, it gives us an idea of how popular our site is compared to others. So we're going to grab that score. Going to screenshot. And we're going to, again, put that into our analysis on Claude. Alright, next one is going to be referring domains. Now, it's kind of, the way that it works is referring domains is what builds up your domain rating score. So the more referring domains you get, that is like your follower count, and then your domain rating is like the score you get as a result. So the way, essentially what a referring domain, it's also called a backlink. They're similar terms. And essentially if you get some other website that links to you, maybe they've got a blog and they're mentioning, the best long dresses in Australia. If they link to you, then that counts as a referring domain or a backlink. The only difference between referring domains and backlinks is you might have one referring domain, which is one site that links to you many times. So if it links to you 10 times, it might be 10 backlinks from one referring domain, if that makes sense. So it's just how many unique backlinks or sources of backlinks you have. So what we're going to do there again is now, the other thing that's important is not all websites that you get a link from are made equal. It's like if you get a shout out from an influencer versus you get a shout out from your friend, right? Like one has more weight or popularity, one might not have as much. Okay, maybe your friend's an influencer, who knows? You get what I'm putting down here. So what you're going to do is we've actually created what's called a filter. And what you do here, we've set it up so I'll show you what this filter is. Essentially, it gets rid of any sort of website that is not authoritative in itself. So it has to have a score that I spoke about, domain rating of at least 20, and at least 1,000 visitors estimated going to the site. So essentially just filtering out any sites that don't have authority or popularity of their own accord. So save that, and we're going to go for best links only and show the results. And from there, what you can see is again how we're faring against competitors, which I'll come back to in a moment. So let's grab that. So you're going to go down to this second graph and you're going to select positions 1 to 3. So essentially this is showing us for these brands how many different keywords that they show up for in the first 3 positions on a search engine. So you're going to come here and you're going to again screenshot this. Put it in our analysis. Going to come back again, get 4 to 10. Grab that metric. And we're going to paste it in here. Excellent. So we've got our table here and we're going to grab it. And then I'm just going to open a spreadsheet. And so what you're going to do from here is paste in the metrics. Okay. And then what I like to do is actually start to color code these. So you're going to grab this, you're going to go to to format, conditional formatting, color scale, this one here. And you're going to repeat the process for the others. Excellent. So now what you can start to see is, again, some analysis of how we are going against competitors in the space. So you can see here that we get estimated on average around 50,000 people a month coming through to our site. Whereas you compare that to others like Billy J, 117, Dish, 294. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement here. And we're going to unpack more as to why. So some of the high level metrics we can look at here are domain rating and referring domains or backlinks. Same thing. unique backlinks. So what you can see here is that there is a large discrepancy between how many we have and then how many others have in the space. So that's one piece of information. We definitely need to do some more backlink building. That's important. The next thing we look at is keyword positions. So we're very much lacking here. We do not have a whole lot of coverage for keywords. This can be a multitude of different things, but in general, if you've got a lack of keywords, it can oftentimes be because we don't have enough content or we don't have the right collections or coverage of collections across the site. So our content game isn't strong. So that's what I'm going to cover in the next section. Alrighty, so we're going to go to something that's called competitive analysis. So we're going to grab our domains from before. So we'll start with Perfect Stranger. We'll grab them first. Grab, put them in, next one. And then we're going to show keyword or content opportunities. So we're going to change this to Australia because we want to see a local market. And then what we're going to do, we're going to change it to, instead of at least one in the top 10, we're going to change this to maybe 2 or 3. We'll see how we go. Let's try 3 just to be pretty conservative here. So essentially what this does is this looks at your competitors and looks for keywords or phrases where at least 3 of the competitors are ranking in the top 10 on Google. So if you're more strict with this, they're going to be really relevant. If you're less strict, they're going to be there's going to be more different long tail or specific variations because not everyone's going to cover them. So maybe we'll start with 3 and see what we come up with, but we may change it to 2. So 3. So we've got about 3,000 keywords. I might just change that to 2 and see what we get. So 13,000. Interesting. So essentially what this tells us is where a competitor's ranking, and also where we're ranking, but where are the gaps? So you can start to see here, oh, there's some gaps there. There's some gaps there, there's some gaps here, and that's what we're looking for is gaps, okay? Essentially what we want to do from here is we want to export this. So if we go here and click export, and I might just do the first 5,000. There's going to be more than this, but just for the sake of simplicity today, we're going to go the first 5,000. We're going to open this in Google Sheets. I might make myself a little bit smaller. And we're going to start to perform some analysis here. So what I want to do is filter it so I'm only seeing the columns for organic positions. Okay, so let's go back here. We're going to delete any columns where it's not organic positions, and I'll show you why in a moment. That's organic positions, delete this, delete this. What we might also do is just change these to the brand name, so Perfect Stranger, so they're a bit easier to see. I'm also going to do here is I'm going to create what's called an overlap column, okay? I'll show you what that means in a moment. So a few other tweaks I'm going to make. So this is search volume for the month. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change this to the year equals this times 12. The annual search volume, which I think is better to report on because then you can see for the year how much potential there is. And I'm going to change that to, instead of being a formula, it's just going to be numbers instead. So I'm going to scroll back up there. I'm going to create a filter, data, create a filter. Search features, don't worry about those. Now we can get rid of volume, annual search volume, keyword difficulty, cost per click. You can get rid of that. Then I'm going to change this to URL, ranking URL. Also going to do here for this overlap column is I'm going to do equals count. And then I'm going to grab all of the different brands rankings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to do conditional formatting, color scale, and keep it like this. So what does all this mean? All right, so we're going to run through it. So essentially this means for all of these keywords, for all of these different things, like you look at this, there's some amazing, really relevant keywords here that you would love to appear for. And again, keywords is someone searching for this, how much search there is for it. Examples here, brown set, 2-piece sets, woman's bomber jacket. There is, again, 5,000 different opportunities here where our at least 2 of our competitors are ranking in the top 10. At least 2 of our competitors are ranking in the top 10, but we may not be. Okay, so you can see here, there's still heaps of gaps, massive amounts of gaps. It's knit sweater. Perfect stranger, we might have knit sweaters, but we're not ranking for it. We may not have a collection for it. So this is where you start to identify opportunities. Okay, maybe we don't have a bikini. We do have bikinis. We don't have a dedicated sets page for it. Okay, and this is where the opportunity and the strategy starts to emerge. So the other thing you can look at here is overlap. So the greater the overlap tends to mean that there are more relevant keywords to more brands that are in your ecosystem or your competitive landscape. So some of these, if you've got a 2 overlap, might not be as relevant. Okay. Now, what I do with this information is I actually download this as doesn't really matter how you do it, usually as a CSV. And then I come over to Claude because I want it to start clustering them into opportunities. So I'm going to go to Claude. I'm going to put in our content gap analysis sheet. I'm going to ask it, can you please, existing ones, please include total number keywords. Also include a column. Cool. Let's see what happens from here. So we've got some here, but these are far too broad. You can see here that these have 256 keywords in one collection. So there should be a lot. These need to be a lot more specific. Alrighty, so this is so much better here. So now what you can see that it's done is it's actually started to sort these by color, by style and occasion, by skirts, tops, sets and cords, bottoms, jackets, occasion and lifestyle. So again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a first attempt from 5,000 keywords. And also you'll recall that I only exported the first 5,000. There was actually 13,000 keywords in this total list. So this would just be the top ones. There's definitely heaps more in here. But this again, this is how you can start formulating a strategy. So you can see here that Perfect Stranger, they don't even have a collection for green dresses. They don't even have a collection for yellow dresses. Again, you work your way down the list, black midi dresses, pink maxi dresses. So again, perhaps they don't have the page. Look, there's every likelihood that they may not have the products to house such a collection. Still, this gives you an amazing idea of what type of collections you should be building out, where you're missing content and where you can re-optimize. So here you can see as well, is you can see the winning brand. So Meshki across the board is destroying it. They're, as an example for red dresses, on average for all of those keywords, there's 41 keywords in that cluster. There's 266,000 search volume for the year in that. Average position that we are is 10, whereas Meshki's 6.5. So by spending time re-optimizing the content on this collection, by improving the technical components of the website, which we won't go into today, and by also building backlinks to these specific pages, they can start to get some better positions here. So this gives you as a brand a really good idea of how you sit. And again, this will help you create your strategy. So what I'd advise you to do is maybe 2 or 3 of these at a time. Go, okay, cool. We're going to start at the top where the most potential is, or maybe we start where we're 3 feet from gold, or maybe we start with the ones where we don't have any sort of rankings whatsoever, and we actually just work our way creating these pages, first and foremost improving the copy on these pages, getting some copy above the fold just a little bit, creating more copy below the product feed, and this is where you can start to get some huge improvements in your search market share. I would use this to underpin your organic search strategy for the next 12, 24, even 36 months. So I hope this has been helpful.
And that's the full process. Honestly, if you just action 3 or even 4 of those content gaps, you're going to start seeing results. And if you'd rather have us do it for you at scale using our own tech, book a call. We'll build a revenue growth map for free, showing you exactly how much organic traffic is on the table. Links below.